Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again. So we return to the Corsair for probably quite a short video today, I think, which we're going to look at the clipping of the wings. I'll show you a little bit about that. Just to bring you up to date with where we are. We're very nearly there, actually, to be honest with you. There'll be some primer going down at some stage, and so all of the undercarriage parts are on. I've not glued these in yet, but I will do that later on. But I'll prime and paint all of this in one together, apart from these bits here, which are the exhaust stubs, which I shall mask off and then leave that colour inside there, and then touch up a little bit later on. But everything else is pretty much ready there. So I've put the aerial spike on. I've already knocked that off once, so there's no doubt that I should be feeding the swear box again when I knock it off again, and that's going to happen. But there we are. It's coming along anyway, so we're nearly there. Now, you'll know that we are looking at doing a Fleet Air Arm Corsair, so we'll be modelling KD433, which is on display over at Yeovilton. Do go and visit it. And if you want a good reference book for the KD433, you can read the book. I'll put a link into it in the comments section, or in the the introductory bit at the front end, about Corsair, the time capsule fighter revisited. It's a very detailed, very good, very good book, and I was fortunate enough to meet the guy who wrote that, and he's forgotten more about that particular aircraft than most people will ever know. So anyway, there we are. Quick before we carry on, thanks very much to everybody who's subscribed. Again, there's a lot of you, and if you're visiting for the first time tonight, there's a bit of masking tape there, I'll put that away over there. If you're visiting for the first time tonight, please do feel free to subscribe. I hope that you find it interesting, and if you're coming back again after perhaps my last video, then I'm very much obliged to you. Particularly if you came along and said, I thought your last video was boring, and good for you, well done. Don't mind if you say that, it's perfectly fine, and I shall respond to you accordingly, with hopefully some respect. Anyway, there we are. So let's carry on. So as I say, the Fleet Air Arm Corsairs had clipped wings, so as you can see, this is what you're supposed to put in, and it goes into about that level there, like that. Let's just zero in a little bit so you can see that. So it goes into about that level there. Now, because the Corsairs for the Fleet Air Arm were put in smaller vertical spaces in aircraft carriers for the Royal Navy, they clipped off about 8 inches from the outer parts of the wings here. Wouldn't be any good clipping them off the inside parts after all, would it? So they clipped off 8 inches. Now, this had largely to do with the fact that, well, there are two things actually. The first one is that some of these aircraft were put into escort carriers, which were very much smaller in terms of headroom above the aircraft, and this is a fairly big aircraft. By any measure, this is a big aircraft. The second thing is that aircraft carriers, the fleet aircraft carriers, had reinforced armour plated decks, which meant that there was less room at the roof, whereas on American aircraft carriers they had wooden decks. So that was the reason why the 8 inches were clipped off. It improved the roll rate of the aircraft, so the aircraft could roll like that much more quickly, but it also made the sink rate, so that the rate at which the aircraft falls under power, higher as well. So you get swings and roundabouts doing these things, but you can clip these wings perfectly happily because you don't have to cut them off. This normally slots in there like that. You don't have to do that. All I've done with this is taken some about 1 mil, 0.75 mil plastic card, and if I zero in on this a little bit, you'll be able to see this, I think, a little bit more. Let's just see if we can get right in at that. You can see a small step, and here's the small step here. You can just see it there, what you do is you put a piece of 0.75 card in there, glue that in, and then glue something else, another piece of card onto the top of it. And then what you can do is, well, I'll show you what you can do after that. So there we go, put that back there, and then we can zero it back out again, and we can take it from there. But as you've done that, or the first bit is put the step in and so on, what you can then do is add in the second piece and then glue that in, and you can see that's done there. That's had a goodly amount of time to, that's not going to work, is it? Oh, there we go. No, maybe there we are. That's had a goodly amount of time to dry, so what we need to do is to actually treat that so that we can get this all nice and smooth. So a couple of things we need to do before we carry on doing that. The first is to tape either side of this wing section here, the upper and the lower, and there's a good reason for doing this, and that is that you protect the details in that surface there because of the file that you're going to have to use. Let's put the poker over there, shall we? You're going to use a file or a well, that's not long enough, is it? A file or a sander to be able to sand off the remains of the bits that you cut off. So we'll just put them in there like that, so that will protect those surfaces there. And the simple thing that we're going to do here is we're just going to essentially cut off these sections, and we're not going to cut right up to the edge. We're going to file up to the edge, but we're going to cut off some distance away, and then we can, I'll just let that drop onto the instruction leaflet there, or book. It's a book, isn't it? It's not a leaflet, it's a book. And we can just cut this stuff away. I do have two pairs of cutters as it happens, and normally I would say don't use your best pair of cutters to do this, because then you can look after your cutters. I mean, if you've got those super new ones that Nigel's modelling bench is advertising, then you've got to be very careful with them. But this is a fairly standard pair of cutters with a double-edged blade on them. I've got a cheap pair here, but I think with these at the moment you might as well actually chew the edges, to be quite honest with you, because they're not particularly good. I mean, you can hear the difference in terms of the cut they take. So there we go. So it doesn't really work particularly. They don't work particularly well. But anyway, what we're doing is just cutting away the sections that we don't need here. See, that didn't take that off really very particularly well. So that's a much more crisp cut there. You can hear that, and so not quite up to the edge there. And it won't take 2 seconds to file this away, to be honest with you. It's pretty damn quick, to be honest. Cut that away, and so there we go. So what we then have, we can see that little step there. All we need to do is take this is a 240/400 file, and then I can just simply address this on the file here like this. Let's put the tools away and put that way over there out the way, and then I can just address the file onto the work here, and this will move away very quickly. So I'm going to concentrate on this edge because that's where the step is, because there's slightly thicker grade of, level of plastic there, and we'll just gently file it away, and what we'll see is this will zap through this bit if you want. You'll see my hands moving as I come to examine the work. I'm going to get a brush on this so I can see where I'm at. Excuse me. You see these little bits of swarf, if you like, coming off here. You know you're reasonably close there. See, I've filed that away there. So what we might do is just put a little bit more extra tape on that. I'm not going right the way up to the edge there, because then I wouldn't be able to see the junction that I'm looking for here between the white plastic and the grey. And we're just taking the material down. I need to take that off and file it and protect it some more. Take that off there. Give it another piece of tape. Excuse me, coughing away there. My consumption grows ever worse. There we are, never mind. I might have slightly filed that surface, so it's, as well as I say, it's very easy to do this, to file that surface off. There we go. I'll just look under there. So we'll carry on. I'll go that way round. This is how I was. Now you can look down at this like this and keep the there's still a step there, so that's all right. We keep going until the step's gone. We're about done at the back there. Excuse me, I'm a bit of a frog in my throat there. Right, that's filed down. So it's quite quick, as you can see. It's quite straightforward to do. If you want to do it more quickly, you can use a Corsair sanding stick if you wish to, and you can get them down to 120 grit, these things. Just give that a brush off, give it a turn around, and then just keep going here. So the wingspan was reduced on the Corsairs by around 8 inches, and at 132 scale that equates to about 6.35 millimeters, just for those who are interested. And this piece of work that I'm doing here will take us to that particular distance. There we go. There's a I think it was a wooden panel on the end of each wing, as it happens, that you know you're getting close. You see when you get these little pieces of swarf coming off here. There we go, we're just about there now. Just doing the leading edge here. Yeah, I think we're there with that one. Yes, we are. So what we'll do is we'll just take those bits off. We've got some just a bit of additional work to do. As you can see, we've got that nib left over there. So we're going to just file that away down that way, and then we'll go to the 400 grit stick. Take the dust off that. There we go. We'll go to the 400 grit stick now and just finish it up. And that way we're not damaging any of that delicate detail that we'd like to preserve. I'm just going to clip that away there. It's very thin. It was more or less swarf, as it happens. Let's turn that so we've got a bit of light on that. smooth side. And you're virtually there now. So this section in here is the light panel, so we need to make certain that we get that bit right. So I just use a metal file with that, and this way I won't damage the moulding of the light there, which is in there. So just very carefully. Oh no. There we are. I've just messed that up because I've just knocked that section off, which is not what I wanted to do. So if we look at the other one, you'll be able to see that there, that little section there is the light just in there. See if we can zero it in so you can see that clearly. So you can see the little light there, which you just paint that. And port is the red, and the other colour, which I think is blue, is on the starboard side. But I've knocked that off there, so you can see that made a right mess of that. That's not good. I'm going to have to manufacture something for that. I'll just finish that up there, and there you have a nice finished section there for your clipped wings. Now I'm going to leave the wings off as it happens, as it goes. The only other things to do really here is to actually put the light lenses in. A little bit of fitting work to do with that, just to reduce the size slightly, but that won't be a problem in and of itself. And I'll have to manufacture a little bauble to go in there, and there you have it. And that is, it really is as simple as that. You know, you can modify the wing sections. Now you can do it on a 1/48 scale as well, of course, and doing it on a 1/48 scale means that you have to do a bit of cutting. You can see that on one of my other videos. It's not quite. There we go, that's better. So we'll zero out again. So put our files away. So you can do it on 1/48 scale, but you have to, as I've said, cut the wing section here. It's not a difficult job to do, and it finishes off quite nicely. And these wings obviously sit in there into their little slots, like that. Now you will observe, of course, because you are sharp-eyed like that, there's that little tweaker there. So we'll just zero in and show you why I've done this, and what the reason for this is. So we'll just zero in. So this little section here, this little tubule rod here, goes to the flap. So it's the flap down actuating lever, and it's operated from this material here. So I've put that on. I've replaced or placed these wings in like this, and then glued this control rod here into that section there, and then I can glue this in properly later on, and that means I can leave these wings off so that I can paint them. Because if you think about painting the underside of the wings here, let's zero out so you can see it properly. Think about painting the underside of the wings when they're folded. Would be quite a tough job as it happens, so and you might leave some bits, so I want to avoid that. So what do? Well, we just carefully withdraw that little section there and take the wing folded mechanism out. So now what I can do is I can just paint that perfectly happily, and that was my way of avoiding a problem there. But I can also paint this on, and I don't get any paint shadows or anything like that here. So that should, I hope, go out quite nicely. So I've got a bit of mess to clean down before I finish up for this evening, and hopefully that was an interesting little vignette of a video, shall we call it, if we're being particularly poetic. that you will have enjoyed seeing. Thank you very much indeed if you've got this far, much appreciated. Next time round we'll probably have a completed Corsair for you to look at. No, hello, it's all going all over the place now. I very carelessly threw that on the floor, and oh dear, I got a small disaster there because that fell on the floor, so that's going to need to be put back in again, but that won't be a problem. We'll glue it back in again and it won't be a disaster. So the moral of the story is be careful, and before very long you'll be able to see another finished model as well. So I'm just in the process of masking off the Canberra camouflage here. So that's a dark ocean grey and dark green, so that's the 50s camouflage colours there. I've used outlaw paints for them, so they've gone down extremely well so far, so they've been very good. Anyway, after 21 minutes, thank you very much indeed for your time, everybody. Much appreciate you coming along. Hope you enjoyed that. You even saw a slight unedited disaster, so there we go. So look, thanks a lot everybody. See you on the next one. Take care for now. Bye bye.